and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's program. This evening's program can be viewed live on ZJB Spirit of Montserrat's Facebook page. We are also allowing you to call in with your questions relating to tonight's topic. The numbers are 491 7227, 491 9064, or WhatsApp us at 496 2885. Our presenter this evening is from the beautiful island of Antigua, sorry. Before accepting the call to pastoral ministry, he served for 4 years as Bible teacher and school pastor in the British Virgin Islands. Pastor Bridges then received a call from the South Leeward Conference, where he served as pastor for District 5. Soon after this, Pastor Bridges accepted the call from St. Kitts, District 3, where he currently serves as the district pastor of the three congregations. Pastor Bridges has a passion for youth ministry. Hence, he continues to serve as chaplain for three schools in St. Kitts, and he is currently pursuing a master's in psychology with a focus on youth development. More than his love for preaching, he loves and enjoys the company of his wife and lifelong partner in ministry, Sister Vernette Bridges. And above everything, he loves the Lord and is desirous to be used by the Master. Listening and viewing audience, help me welcome Pastor Sean A. Bridges to share with us tonight on understanding children ages 4 to 9 and youths ages 10 to 15. Pastor Bridges, welcome to tonight's program.
Good evening, good evening. Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes, we are.
Excellent, excellent. It's indeed a joy for me to be here with you. This evening I was in Montserrat just a few weeks ago and I enjoyed it so much. And I'm indeed happy that I'm now being invited back via the radio station that I could continue to speak to the people of Montserrat. But just before we begin and enter into our session this evening, I just ask if you could just bow your heads so that we could start with a word of prayer and ask God's blessings on this evening's proceedings. So
Thank
let's
you.
pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for how you would have, Lord, directed and blessed, Lord, this radio station. We pray, Lord, that you may be with us as we enter into our discourse this evening. We ask that you grant us insight, open up our minds, open up our hearts, that we may understand clearly what you're saying to us this evening, is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen and
Amen.
amen.
Father,
And
just before
so
you
this,
start, I just want to announce who I am. My name is Hyacinth Bramble
okay,
Brown. I'm tonight's facilitator. Our co-facilitator is on vacation with the Montreal Secondary School and will be back after vacation. And we do welcome you tonight. I met you when you were here in Montserrat, and we definitely expect tonight to be very informative and stimulative. Thank you, Father. Pastor.
yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, with no further ado, tonight the sole purpose of this our discussion and this presentation is to highlight and to bring some awareness as to where our children, our young people are, based on current research and new developments being shared across the globe. Of course, you know, our children, they are going through a period never experienced before. So this evening we want to look at it and to get a clear understanding as to where and how we can connect with our children, ages 4 to 9. We're going to start with that age group, ages 4 to 9, and then we're going to look at ages 5, sorry, ages 10 to
10 to
15.
15.
So we could begin. So research says that children ages 4 to 9 in 2026, they're growing up in a world very different from the world children experienced 10 years ago. The culture is different, the family life is different, the education is different, and the global events all around us is starting to change. And so what we're finding now, or what research is showing, is that children today, they are experiencing things when we were their age, they have never experienced before. Um, just one quick question to the facilitator. Is it possible that the screen could be shown? I'm not seeing the presentation on the screen. Is it
Okay, that's
possible
what
we
we
could
were
have it up on
wondering
the
as
screen?
well. I'm seeing it at the top.
Yes.
Let me check that for you
Yes. Okay.
with the
Yeah, so I'll
technicians.
just go through the presentation while you're doing that.
Yes.
All right. So what we're saying this evening is that we want to take a look at where our children are today. So let's look at it. So children today are digital natives. So science considers them to be digital natives. What does this mean? Now it means that they're born into a world where smartphones, tablets, streaming, all of these things are already there. They never knew a world without all of these devices, all of these networks, streaming, and all of these things. In other words, they have never known a world that was without screens or technology. Now we, the older ones, we the adults, we were already present, and technology came and met us. But our children of today, they're born into a world where technology was already present. And so by by age 4, science and technology would have already been present. So what they're saying is that 95% of children in 2026 have done the following. They've used the tablet independently. They've watched on-demand videos daily, meaning whether it could be Netflix, it could be YouTube, it could be any of those streaming platforms, and they've played digital games by themselves. We're talking about 4-year-olds today. We're talking about 4-year-olds. And so what we're saying is that science is now showing us, and research is also showing us, that their brains and how they think and how they live their lives as children is now being developed very differently. And we're going to see that in the research very shortly. All right. So at the same time, our children have also lived through a global pandemic during their early childhood. I'm not sure. Well, I could say very confidently that none of us have ever lived through a global pandemic. However, our children, ages 4 to 9 and ages 10 to 15, they've lived through a global pandemic. This has affected how they think and how they relate to each other as well. And they've lived through currently the height of social media. And so because of these elements, they are unlike any other group of children, researchers saying, that has ever existed here on planet Earth. And so there's a challenge now in connecting and relating with these very same young people who the world considers and scientists are considering captioning the name digital natives, because where they live is as a world of digital. Everything around them is digital. All right. So children 4 to 9, they process information faster because of their digital exposure. They are used to quick visual changes. So when they're on the screen, things that happen very quickly, very rapidly. And so we're going to see how that affects the brain and how their brains are being shaped and formed. And they are considered to be a new type of young people, a very different type of breed of children that are coming up today, if I could use that term. And so they have short form videos that gets to the point very quickly. Now, if you're a teacher this evening, if you've taught, if you've ever sat in a classroom, whether it's Sunday school or Sabbath school, or you're teaching any subject, primary school, secondary school, you we're going to face the challenge of reaching these children and teaching a principle that in some ways could be taught in a very quickly in certain on certain platforms. So in other words, what I'm saying is that they get the response, or they get to the point in these videos very quickly. In other words, when they get to the classroom, it takes a bit longer for the teacher to get to the point, or to get to or what they're trying to say. And so what you're finding is that these children, they receive the meat of the matter, or the conclusion, or very quickly when they watch and they stream on these platforms. So let's look at it again. So because of this quick response and the quick conclusion that they receive, and the dopamine that is poured on their brain, some children struggling waiting, they get bored very quickly, and they have a challenge when you give them long instructions. So you have to break down the instructions into pieces. And so you tell a child, we're going to see it later down in the presentation, so let me not jump ahead. And so the attention is shaped by fast moving content. So things are moving very quickly. Their brains have adjusted to the speed of how things are moving quickly. And if you're a part of an older group, then you probably have a challenge in relating that same information that is being shared. And so many children today, they recognize patterns very quickly. So if you give a child a pattern, you give them a puzzle, you give them a game, they're able to solve very quickly. They navigate technology very easily. You give a child a tablet, you give them a phone, they're able to navigate and find YouTube wherever it is, and they're able to find the videos that they like, because they're born into a world where these technology and all of these devices are already present. All right, so their brains are adaptive, but easily overstimulated, and we're going to see why in a few minutes. All right, so many educators, teachers, parents, they report that their children today express emotions more openly. They use emotional vocabulary earlier, and research is showing that children, we're speaking about children ages 4 to 9. They're speaking about how they're depressed, how they're overwhelmed, how they're struggling with all of these things. And when we were that age, if you're older, well, if you're an adult this evening and you tuned in, we never knew about being bored. If you're bored, you go outside, you play marble, you play football, you climb a tree, you go in the neighbor's yard, you're active. But one of the challenges that we're seeing is that the children today, they are very aware of how they feel, and they're sharing all of these emotions, and they're trying to express themselves. So there's a platform to express yourselves, and so they're aware of all of these emotions. And so there has been a strong focus on mental health when it comes to children. And so in schools now, there's a focus on mental health. They're looking at how can we help our children who are struggling with anxiety, struggling with stress. We're talking about primary school ages 4 to 9. How can we help them with depression? How can we help them? Because they are aware, and they are cognizant of these very same factors, where we never experienced and never had that baggage to carry even as a little child. So, however, there are some challenges. Anxiety levels are rising in young children. Many struggle with emotional regulation. They're unable to regulate how they feel, and so they lash out, they say things, they do things, and then we wonder, why is this child behaving this way? Some have lower frustration tolerance. They easily get frustrated at the snap of a finger, because of the digital entertainment. Children are less used to delayed gratification. So if you're playing a game with a child, and all of a sudden you tell the child at the end of the game you'll get the prize, the child will get frustrated, they will get angry, they want the prize now, because their brains have now been formulated and shaped in such a way that the prize is usually given close to the beginning, but now we're telling the child you'll get the prize at the end, and this creates frustration within the child, because their brains are not cannot understand why they need to wait for this prize at the end. And so that there's that delayed gratification, that prize at the end, and they struggle with that. So they have a struggle as well with problem solving through discomfort, working through boredom. When a child is bored, we need to give them something to for them not to be bored anymore. We give them a device, we give them a tablet, we turn on the TV. But if we could remember a time when we were younger,
Mm-hmm.
when we were bored, we found something to do. There's a creative part within a child that parents and teachers that we need to tap into, and that creativity is being diminished over time because the child isn't allowed to be creative in within his or her own self. And so we are replicating, or we are trying to replace that creative atmosphere that the child should have growing up. So let's continue. So children ages 4 to 9, they
Mm-hmm.
learn social skills primarily through these avenues. They play, they learn how to socialize during play, face-to-face interaction, and even through conflict resolution.
Resolution.
That's how children they learn right from wrong by playing and by trial and error and all of these things. So in 2026, free outdoor play has decreased in many communities. Screen time has replaced unstructured neighborhood play. I oftentimes ask the question, when last have you seen a child with a cast on their hand, with a cast on their foot, in the hospital because of broken bones? We don't see this. We don't see these things anymore because what has happened? The outdoor play has been replaced unstructured play, while meaning you allow a child to play, to for them to tap into their creativity and for them to play just openly and allow them to be children. But what happened? We discourage outdoor play because we're afraid that they may hurt themselves. We replace it with these devices that have now been shaping our children's mind into something that scientists are still trying to understand because it's something that is ongoing. And so new research is being revealed, and so that's something that we need to tap into.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this affects conflict management, skill readings, sorry, conflict
Yes,
management
skills.
skills, reading body language, empathy development, and cooperative problem solving. All of these things a child should be learning between the ages of 4 to 9. This is how the child read body language. So sometimes when a parent or an adult or a teacher is upset, the child is unable to read body language and to be able to empathize because they have constantly been connecting to a device or a screen. And so their brains have now lost that connectivity that a child should have with another individual, with a parent or with a brother, with a sister. They're unable to connect um, even on that level. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
technology is the biggest shaping force. That's what we're saying this evening. And we're not saying that technology is all bad. We're going to look at the good that we could find in technology and how we could benefit from it. So we're going to see that very soon. But this evening, we want to take a look at how our children are being affected. And so technology affects children in 2026 in several ways. So there's some positives to it. We have access to educational resources, interactive learning, creativity through digital tools, and early tech literacy. So all of these things are good. All
Mm-hmm.
of these things, they benefit our children. But there is another side to it that we need to pay attention to because there's good and bad in everything.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a balance, is what we're saying this evening. All right, so if you have any questions, remember you could shoot your questions to the
Yeah.
moderator, to the host,
Yes.
and I'll try my best to answer them as soon as possible. All right, so there's a shortened attention span. Teachers can attest to it, parents can attest to it. There's sleep disruption. The child doesn't sleep at nights because there's certain things that's happening in the brain, which we're going to see very shortly. There's reduced physical activity. The child doesn't want to play, they just want to sit, watch the screen, or just get involved in something, watch something on the television. And so they get overstimulated very quickly. And so there's an overexposure to inappropriate content as well because the child sometimes find themselves going um, to different
Sides.
websites that would cause a challenge there as well. And so the child's brain at ages 4 to 9 is still developing, is what we're saying. And skills like impulse control and planning, all of these things the child learns, whether you believe it or not, at ages 4 to 9. The child could learn all of these important skills. And so high digital stimulation, meaning constantly on the screen, can interfere with this development when it's not balanced. I've seen parents leaving their child or children with devices for long periods of time. Sometimes they go down the road and they leave the child with the tablet or the phone or the television for extended period of time. And most times, if we're honest, these very same devices are what raise our children. And so we're trying to see, and scientists are trying to see what the child brain looks like in 2026. But before we get to that, we're going to get to that in a bit. And so high digital stimulation can interfere with the development when not balanced. Technology is not the enemy, is what we're saying, but it competes heavily for attention. Let's move on. So what we're saying to our teachers, our parents, our guardians is that we need to encourage unstructured play. This builds creativity, problem solving, social skills, and confidence. But what we see happening is that our children are watching other children play. And it's very strange because we find our children on the screen watching another child play with toys, probably playing a video game, doing something, and so that defeats the whole creative parts of their brain, that the problem solving that they would have by interacting with other children and being able to grow they benefit with their social skills as well. And so children still need dirt, imagination, and peer interaction. Our children need to interact with each other and need to be in the dirt, whether you believe it or not.
Yep.
They need to be outside and be able to connect with nature and be able to connect with others as well. And so children learn by watching adults. And so if we as adults, we're always on our phones, guess what will happen? The children
Children
will
follow.
replicate what they see. And they're going to think that this is normal. They already think that it's normal. And so they're going to replicate exactly what they see. And so there's something that we call dopamine. So dopamine is the brain's reward chemical. All right, it is activated when something feels new, exciting, and pleasurable. And so when the brain receives this, the brain loves it. And so the brain says, give me more, give me more, give me more. And what happens? Digital media, games, interactive apps are designed to provide quick rewards, as we said in the beginning, deliver constant novelty, meaning prizes at the end, that dopamine burst on the brain, and trigger frequent dopamine release. So the more they watch, the more dopamine is being poured on the brain, the more they receive the quick rewards. And can you imagine, as a teacher, as a parent, you're competing with these devices, with these things that were created to feed the brain this dopamine chemical reward every single day? It's going to be a challenge.
Yes.
It's going to be a challenge, and teachers can attest to it as well, that it is a challenge. And so repeated exposure, what we're saying is that it trains the brain to expect immediate satisfaction, continuous stimulation, and fast results. So if we are competing with this, then we know we're heading an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And so this can make slower rewards reading. Sometimes you tell a child to read, that is boring. The child doesn't want to read. They don't see the benefit of reading.
Mm-hmm.
They have long learning processes. You're teaching them arithmetics, you're teaching them maths, you're teaching them grammar, and it's taking long for them to get it. They get bored, they get discouraged, they mentally tap out, and so you find that it's hard to teach a simple principle that was easily taught a few years ago. All right, so teachers are having a challenge in the classroom. Children, when they get home, the parents are having a challenge as well. And the first thing some parents do is they go to YouTube. They go to YouTube and they look for that principle that the teacher tried to teach in school, because when they find it on YouTube, it's easy to relate and to share um, that via that platform, because that's how the child learns, is what
Yeah.
some parents are saying. And so we're going to look at a few principles. Executive function. This is the inhibitory control, is just another word for the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that stops us from acting on impulse. And so a 5-year-old wanting to grab a toy but choose to wait their turn is showing that their prefrontal cortex is functioning. They're utilizing it. A feeling angry but not hitting another child is a child that is showing that they have matured and that they understand the rules that they should be abiding by, whether it's in the classroom or on the playground at
Mm-hmm.
home. And so these skills requires the brain to override emotional responses coming from the amygdala. So what we're saying is that
Pastor,
because the
just a minute,
child,
Pastor.
yes,
Everything
go
you've
ahead.
been saying so far, we are seeing it in education now. And as educators, we were originally wondering why, but I think you're
Mhm.
pointing to some of the possible answers, and
Right.
I hope parents are listening. Those who were not aware before, it might be a little bit late, but you can still pull your child back and ensure that there's a balance between how much of the technology and how long they use the technology for. Because as you were saying, Pastor, it's both good and bad. We want them to use the technology,
That's
but we
right.
want it to be balanced, a balanced use. And so, therefore, um, based upon the fact that it's affecting the young ones, their brains 4 to 9, and things like the way they respond and how angry they get, and for simple things like if you step on their toe, uh, is it very important that we come back and use the technology in the right way and ensure that our students, our children, understand about balance. Thank you.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's a very, very, very important point. Um, so in order, well, at the end, I'm going to share some points that we could use, some
Thank you.
areas that we could use to try and decrease as much as possible these usage of these
Devices.
the platforms and the devices and all of these things. So we're gonna look at that in a few minutes. All right. So how these skills, we're looking at ages 4 to 9 still. And so between ages 4 to 9, the prefrontal cortex undergoes rapid synaptic growth. And there's a lot of things that is happening in the brain between ages 4 to 9. All right, so children strengthen their executive skills, meaning how their brain works through waiting their turn. And it's important, and this is something that a lot of parents struggle with. They have a challenge with it. They don't like their children losing. They don't like their
Mm-hmm.
children to fail because they feel like the child would have lost out on life. But losing in games and losing in certain areas allows the child to grow and to learn and to use that part of their brain that they could bounce back. But what happens is that we think that when the child loses, that the child suffers in the end. And the child needs to, as I would have shared earlier, to be able to negotiate rules and to look at how they could overcome boredom, and they struggle with multi-step physical activities. So if you tell a child um, multiple instructions in one, as I said earlier, they would have a challenge with it. They would only probably do part of it. You tell a child, when you get in the classroom, sit at your desk, take out your book, put your calculator, well, put your calculator and your other devices here. When you're finished, go and stand at the back. The child will probably do half of those commands because their brains are not wired now to accept all of those commands all together. So they will have a challenge and a struggle with putting all of those commands together. And so the question is, what is the brain, or what are the brain becoming today? How can we know how to connect with those children that their brains have now shaped or formed to something else? And so based on current patterns, research is saying that children's brains
Mm-hmm.
are adapting towards high-speed processing, visual dominant learning, meaning the child, at one point, children learn through auditory, to listening, to
Mm-hmm.
reading. Some had to write over the stuff over and over to get it. But you'll find today that more children are visual dominant learners. So that's how they learn. Most of them, they are learning via the visual lessons. And this is what happens when they're overstimulated and they've been on that media for an extended period of time. And so you'll find that they have a challenge with multitasking. They are unable to take up a book and put it here while doing something else. They have to take one thing at a time. If you've noticed in the classroom,
Yep.
and so they have a challenge as well with emotional expressiveness. They're very expressive with emotion. Teacher, I'm overwhelmed. I'm talking about a 4-year-old teacher. I'm stressed. Teacher, I have a lot of stuff to do. Teacher, and all of these things. All right, and you're wondering, what does this child have to do at this age that they're so stressed, that they're so overwhelmed, and that they are so depressed? All right. So what might the brain look like in 10 years? This is what every single parent and every single adult, whether your guardian, your teacher, your neighbor, because we're still responsible for the children around us. This is what every parent should be looking at this evening. So if current trends continue, meaning if we continue along this for the next 10 years, in 2036, when today's children, ages 4 to 9, are now close to the age of adolescent, you'll find that they have reduced deep focus, meaning they can't focus for any extended period of time. They'll be antsy, they're unable to sit for any extended period of time, to focus on one thing for any extended period of time. You'll have a challenge in keeping your eyes on the board if you still use a chalkboard. If you're teaching a principle, you'll have to probably start to change the dynamics of how you teach in the classroom. That's one of the things that I had to do as a teacher. You'll have lower frustration tolerance, more fights, more children that have a short attention span, and we already struggle with that already. It's going to be
Yes.
increased. There'll be more persons, children struggling with anxiety, reduced comfort with stillness, difficulty with long-term delayed rewards, which we spoke about earlier. And the
Mm-hmm.
brain may become adaptive in fast-changing environments, but less practice in sustained, slow-building efforts. In other words, they are unable to function when things are happening very quickly, but as soon as things start to slow down, you'll find them that they're getting very uneasy and uncomfortable. And so the brain is malleable, the brain can be formed, the brain can be shaped, and it should be the parents' responsibility, the teachers, the whole of the community, the churches. It's all of our responsibility to come together so that we could shape the young people of tomorrow. But what has been happening is that we have now turned them over to technology, and technology is now shaping what tomorrow's young people will look like. And so this means the end result is not fixed, is what we're saying. We're not painting, well, I'm not painting a doom and gloom research or presentation this evening. And so what we're saying is that if families, schools, and communities encourage outdoor play, let the children go out and play, teach emotional regulation, because the children are already at that place, so we need to know, help them to understand how they're feeling, limit overstimulation, practice deep work when it comes to encouraging them to have unstructured play, model healthy digital boundaries, and the brain, so that the brain will balance out itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if high stimulation, speed, and digital immersion dominate or continue to remain unchecked, the brain will increasingly optimize for speed over depth. And so, balance prediction: 10
Mm.
years from now, the average child's brain will likely be more technologically integrated, which we're already partially there, but we're looking at ages 4 to 9. We're going to look at
Pa-
ages 10
Pastor,
to 15 in a
just
moment.
before you go on,
Go ahead.
is this overstimulation for all our students ages 4 to 9, or just the ones who have overused the technology, like the ones who have been on it for too long per each day? Is it
Yes, that's correct.
okay?
Yes, that's correct. Those who have been um, on it for extended period of time,
Periods.
because there's a time frame that a child should be on it, on technology or on a device or on the screen. There's a time frame that a child should be given that they could spend on it, because of course we can't escape the technology that is here. It's already here. We can't escape it. It's in our homes. It's in the classroom. It's everywhere we are. It's right in our faces. But we now will have to start to regulate how it's being used. All right. So here are some areas. Here are some predictions based on research. Children will be faster processing visual information, more globally aware. More children today know about the wars in Iran and what's happening in Pakistan and all of these things. When we were their age, we only knew what was happening in our neighborhood, but they are now aware on a global level. They know about Trump. They know about all of these things are happening around us, and they're probably on the same level with information, because information is now being dispersed far and wide. And so, but there's a potential for more anxiety, stimulation dependence. So they have been accustomed to being stimulated via these devices, via the online platform, and so they're going to seek after it. So it's like they're addicted. It's like a drug that they need to find it. They need to be have their daily dose, is what scientists are saying will happen. So they'll be less tolerant of slow processes, and they are wired for a different world. And so the real question this evening is not what we think it is. It's not what our children are becoming. The real question is, what kind of environment are we building around them, or around the technology? What kind of environment are we building for them? Because we can't wholeheartedly, if we're honest, blame technology. Technology is not the enemy. So we need to be honest and look at how we are creating, what kind of environment we are creating for these children. And I'm going to pause here just in case anybody have any questions before we look at ages 10 to 15 this evening. Any questions for me at this time?
I haven't seen any in the online chat, but I do have a question personally. Are you
Okay.
there? Okay. You mentioned that the technology allows them to be to be stimulated readily, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
locally we did a testing, and we found that some students that we tested, they they if you gave them what the test went like this. You told them three different instructions: instruction one,
Mm-hmm.
instruction two, instruction three. When you got to
Mm-hmm.
instruction three, there some of them forgot instruction one. And you said something in your
Mm.
earlier presentation that that kind of made me think of that test. And I'm wondering if there's a connection or possible connection between the quick stimulus and the fact that now some of our students, you can't give them three different bits of information at the same time. Is there a
Right.
possible
That's correct.
connection?
Yes, there's a great that's a great point. There's a definite connection there, because even if you've been to church, Sunday school, Sabbath school, you before time we used to memorize a lot of scriptures and we know what the scriptures saying, but
Mm.
today the brains, it seems like it's saturated. I'm not sure if it's saturated, or because it's now in a new sphere of learning, that when they're now trying to recite, they are unable to recite and to learn multiple things, or paragraph all at once. And so when you give a child a command now, the child is struggling, because that command is going against how their brain has been formed or formulated over the years. And so we oftentimes blame the child, and we get upset with the child, but it's not really the child's fault. The child's brain um, has adapted to an environment that forces him or her to learn in a specific way. And so a child would quickly learn a short command and do it very quickly and very easily
Mm-hmm.
than giving them a long command, one long command they could do, one long command they could do very easily, but five short commands they would have a challenge with. So that's what's happening with our young people. They have a challenge with five short commands, but they have no problem at all with one long command. And so that's the nature of where our young people are today. So you made a good point, and it's good
Mm-hmm.
that you highlighted that.
Yeah, because we found it in we had a young lady here from Barbados who was doing some screening for us, and that came
Mm-hmm.
out as one of these, and I was surprised by it. But now I am thinking that there could be a link. We would need to do
Mm-hmm.
more further research locally, but um, I think that's one of the reasons why you're here tonight,
Yes,
to
yes,
help
yes.
us to put the information out. I
That's right.
thank you.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So we could now move on to ages 10 to 15. So if you have
Definitely.
a child, son or daughter, ages 10 to 15, this presentation is also for you. So we're going to look at how they are impacted. So we saw how children ages 4 to 9 were impacted or are being impacted, and we now need to look at our teenagers, our early teens, on our teenagers, 10 to 15. All right, so what it feels like to be 10 to 15 in 2026. Now at this age, they are standing in between two worlds. They don't consider themselves to be children, but parents don't consider them to be adults, though these age group may disagree. They think or they are of the impression that they are already grown, their bodies have matured, they're at the place where um, they're feeling a bit more. If you're a young man, your muscles, I guess, start to grow a little bit bigger. Your voice start to change. You get a little taller, and so there's things happening in the body. And for a female, she could her breasts and her body start to change as well. And so both genders, their bodies start to change, but not only their bodies we're looking at this evening. We're looking at the brain. We're seeing the brain is now being changed. And so a child that is 10 to 15 today is very different from a child that was 10 to 10 between the ages of 10 to 15, let's say about 15 to 20 years ago. Now we're not looking at the cultural context, we're looking at the development of the brain, because not much has changed for the past 50 years according to scientists and researchers when it comes to young people growing. Of course, there was an age where 10 to 15, they were doing more laborious work. They were out in the field. They were required to have a trade. So they were more laborious. They were more creative. But then we see the opposite with this age group. So we're going to look at it this evening. And so at this age, they are standing in between two worlds, and 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 so they are watched closely by adults. If you're an adult, pay attention. They don't consider themselves to be trusted. Now this is everything that I'm sharing for this presentation, um, is research along with testimonies that has been given by young people, by youths. So they are expected to be mature or act mature, but they are not seen as mature when they are acting mature. They feel change happening inside of them, which we spoke about, the physical, emotional, social aspects. It's being changed, and it's happening, or they are maturing faster than they can explain what's happening. And so their bodies are changing, their friendships are changing. So the friends that they had between ages 4 to 9, that more than likely their friend group will change. The thoughts are now becoming more complex. The awareness of the world is expanding, and they are constantly asking this very same question: who am I becoming? Where do I fit in? Do I matter? Am I enough? The question, am I enough, sits underneath much of what they do. So most of their decisions, most of the things that they do surrounds this very same statement here: am I enough? And we're going to see it in the presentation now. So between ages 10 to 15, the brain goes through a major reorganization. The emotional center, the amygdala, becomes highly sensitive. The reasoning center, the prefrontal cortex, is still under construction. Remember, it started between ages 4 to 9, and they are
49.
now in the age, the teenage range, and so they are now, it's still undergoing construction. It's still being built. And so emotions feel more intense. And so that's why at that age, when they experience hurt and pain, they feel like they want to die, because it's not so much about the child, it's about how their brains and how their brains is receiving information and relating to messages that they oftentimes receive at times. So they take rejection very seriously, rejection from friends, rejection from parents, and that's why we have a lot of those cases where children feel like they want to take their own lives. It's not just something random. It's because at that age they're very, 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 very sensitive when it comes to their emotion. So at the same time, they begin thinking abstractly. What does this mean? They question beliefs. Mommy told me that there was somebody who comes and take my tooth and they leave $1. They start to question that that must be a lie. Um, Christmas and all of these things they start to question everything. Everything that can be questioned will be questioned. Is there God? They've been going to church every Sunday, every Sabbath, and all of a sudden um, they find themselves um,
So, can the listening audience please turn their mic off? Thank you. Go ahead, Pastor.
yes, yes. So they find themselves.
Oh,
Just a
yeah.
moment.
Ma chiama.
Please turn your mic off.
Yes. So for those who have just joined us, we are streaming live from Montserrat radio station. This is just a
ZJB
Zoom
Spirit of
platform that you
Montserrat.
could. Sorry. So you could let them know what the name of the radio station is.
ZJB Spirit of Montserrat Facebook page. Thanks for
Yes,
joining
yes,
us.
yes. And we're so happy that those of you who could join us, we're looking at how we can connect with the children of today. Of course, they're being shaped and formed into something, or into individuals that never existed before. Their brains have now been formed. And so we're looking at how we can connect to these very same children. And so we looked at ages 4 to 9 and what their brains will look like today and 10 years from now based on research. And now we're looking at ages 10 to 15 and what it would look like for them as well.
Pastor,
All
can I
right,
read?
so
Can I just read this comment that came in? It's not necessarily
yes,
a
you could go right ahead.
question. Good night. I am here listening to the technological topic, which will be a challenge to the education systems. As I try to gather more, I wonder what will become of classroom teachers, especially in our classrooms. It's a comment from someone.
Yes, yes. So I guess that's a teacher. So what
Yes.
what what I would say to that teacher is that what we're saying this evening is that we are not eliminating technology. Technology is not the the enemy. It's not the evil person in this story. Technology can be used to benefit children, but what is happening and what we're speaking about this evening is when a child is left um, with this very same technology to their own detriment, to stream and to do that for various amount of hours consistently on a daily basis. And so what we're looking at is how their brains are being developed when it comes to this aspect. So if you're a teacher this evening, whether you're on Montserrat, Antigua, or St. Kitts, um, what we're saying this evening is that the technology in the classroom can be very beneficial. I've used it in the classroom. I've received good results in the classroom. But what needs to happen is that there needs to be a balance and not total reliance on the technology, because we still want our children to be creative in their academic atmosphere. All right. So don't think that I'm here to to paint technology as the bad guy in the story. Not at all, not at all. But let's get back to ages 10 to 15. Thank you so much for that comment.
You're
We are
welcome.
going to look at ages 10 to 15. So these individuals, they could notice inconsistencies very easily. And they think about the future and they analyze fairness. So when a child is being treated unfairly and we think that the child doesn't know, the child is very much aware. They may not say anything, they may not verbalize it, but this child is now looking at how or why they're being treated this way. And so the world, the social world is everything. From ages 10 to 15, peer relationships move to the center of identity. When they walk into the school, youth group, or practice, their brain scans, they look around. Who is looking at me?
Mhm.
Who am I sitting with? Did anyone notice what I just posted online? Did someone leave me out? Is that group chat still vibrant? Was I kicked out? Why was I kicked out? They're asking themselves these questions. And so social rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. In other words, when a child is sidelined, when they're pushed aside, it feels like physical pain to them. And so that's why they cry. That's why they express themselves in these ways as we looked at from ages 4 to 9. They're not so far from this age group. And that's why they react sometimes as children because we say, why are you acting this way? Because their brains have not transitioned from that place from ages 4 to 9, where the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex have been shaped. They're still at that stage. They have not grown and transitioned to the next phase of growth. All right, so let me continue quickly. Their language is layered. They use humor, slang as protection and belonging.
Mhm.
Some terms I'll use very quickly. They use terms as bet, meaning agreement, low key, high key, it's given, cringe, main character. These are some of the terms that they use. And so if you're a parent, you probably heard these already. If you're a teacher,
Hmm.
you probably heard these as well. Um, so you could get or connect with them on these levels so that you could be aware of their language, because what you don't want as a teacher, as a parent, as a guardian, is that the children is speaking one language and you're there trying to figure out what they're speaking about. So it's always good to connect with those very same young people and
Just a
understand
minute,
what they're saying
Pastor.
on their level.
You
Yes, go
are you
ahead.
connecting this new language with the fact that they were on the devices and on this websites?
Well, not necessarily, you know.
Oh.
Research has shared or said that every 5 years the
Mhm.
language of young people change. So when I was younger, we use a different language than what the children of today are using, and so
Mhm.
language change every single 5 years according to scientists and research. It
Okay.
changes every single 5 years. So these children today, when they transition into adulthood, those who are coming up the ages 4 to 9, when 5 years later, they're going to have their own language that they're going to speak, and it's going to be very different. But it's important that as youth leaders, as parents, as teachers, that we could tap into their language so that when they're speaking, we could really connect with them. But
Well,
not to be too, as they say, cringe, that you may sound like you're forcing it, but just as a means of understanding what they're saying when they speak.
totally
You were
agree.
saying something.
Yes, I was saying I totally agree with the change of language because I've experienced it while I've been working at the Monster Secondary School here, and I had to get a translation as to what that phrase means.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's always good to know, to just for knowing its sake, and to have a fair
Mm.
idea of what they're saying, so that when they say it, you're aware of what the language that they're trying to use. And this one is a pretty new one. I found
Mm.
that one recently.
Mm.
I shared it with a few of my leaders as well. It's called swerve. When they're speaking, when young people are speaking, and they realize an adult is coming, they will say swerve, meaning let's change the topic.
Topic.
Let's talk about something else. The teacher is coming, pastor is coming. So anytime you hear a child say swerve, you ask them, oh, so what the conversation was like before I
Before.
arrive. So you're aware of what's happening. So we need to be on the ball with the language our children speak. All
Agreed.
right, let's continue. So I oftentimes say that the world our children live in today, we are aliens. So I consider myself to be an alien. I'm trying to enter into their world. And their world, they have their own language, they have their own government, they have their own structure of how they understand or how they relate to each other. And it's very different from the world that I live in presently. And so, what I need to do, and what we need to do as teachers, as adults, as leaders, um, is that we need to enter into their world. And I place some points here. We're going there not to judge, not to dismiss, not pretending to relate or trying hard to blend in, but we're just there to learn, to understand, to connect, so that we could use what we've learned on their planet to better able to connect with them.
True.
So you might be a parent and you're unable to connect with your child. Your child is acting erratic, saying things, doing things, and you don't quite understand why. There is a reason behind of it, which we're gonna see very shortly. All right. So how to actually enter their world? Let's look at how to enter the world of our young people today. Now, if your goal is to step inside their world, here's what it requires. First, and this is going to be a challenge for a lot of people, observe without interpreting too quickly. Watch how they interact, watch how they joke, watch what makes them light up, watch what interests them, and do all of these things without judging or giving your perspective. I've always told or shared with
Mm.
my leaders whenever I do training like these, is that we're only there to learn. And when we've learned enough and we've grown enough and we have enough information, then we are able to connect and we're able to reach over. And one of the reasons why we're unable to connect with these very same people, young people, is that because we've already we've drawn our own conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
We've come up with what we think they should be doing or they should be saying or how they should be interacting with each other. At this age, we're going to see it very shortly, is that their brains are now going through a very meticulous stage in how they relate to each other.
Father,
Right, let's move on.
before you move on, how
Yes,
you said in this slide to let our, as parents, we must look on and remember we're talking about ages, the secondary school students now ages
right,
10 to 15, right? And
right.
how as parents are we able in today's society to look on and you see your young girl or your young boy forming relationships and coming home and saying, "This is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend," and you're like, this is not something we did in our day. How
Right.
do I sit back as a parent and look on? I don't know if you're
Well,
ready for this one.
well, it's based on context. Now, this
Mm,
here is based on context.
okay.
Um, it's one thing. It's one thing that we need to be mindful of,
Mm-hmm.
is that I think I said it earlier. The young people of today, they are more aware. They are more on the ground. They know more than we knew when we were their age. They're
True.
cognizant of their environment. They are more open with relationships. When they should be outside playing football on the road and blocking off the road playing cricket and stuff, they are there on WhatsApp connecting with a boy, probably connecting with a girl probably connecting with a boy, and they're in group chats. And so relationships are formed very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I said we need to observe first, if you may have a son, you may have a daughter, and the child probably shared with you um, maybe that they're in a relationship or they've connected with somebody that they like. The first thing that we do is shut it down. We slam
Usually.
it down.
Totally.
Not in my house, and all of these things. No, no, I can't tell anyone how to raise their child or what to do, because every circumstance and every situation is different. And so you as the parent must look at your circumstance, look at the situation that your child is in, whether it's a boy or a girl, and see what best works for them, for that child. Of course, we're not promoting any form of relationships. We're not promoting you're seeing your child drinking alcohol and smoking weed and just sit back and just allow it to happen. No, 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 not, that's not what
Mm-mm.
we're saying. The context that I'm speaking about here is that you've entered into a room and you see a group of children sitting, talking, laughing, probably playing a game. You go, you sit down, and you try to understand how it is that they're connecting with each other, the type of jokes that they make. You may not agree with it.
Mm-mm.
You may not think that it's funny. You may not think that the language is appropriate when it comes to how they speak, using these language like cringe and 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 all of
Swerve.
these other terms. You may not understand it, but the point of this presentation is how can we connect with them? How can we understand what they're saying? What do they mean by this? How can I better connect with my child? That's the purpose of this. That's the purpose of the presentation. So it's not in no way to say that the child has the right to do this or the right to do that, and we stand by and look and not give our perspective. But it's more so for us to be aware so
And
that
build
we
a
can
connection.
give informed decisions when it comes to these very same children. So I'm not sure if I answered your question correctly, or you
I
needed
like the way
something
you
else
dealt with
specific.
it because I suppose you'll come back at another time to deal with something else. But for
Yes,
now, it's about making the connection between the parent and the child.
yes.
That's the point you're
And
making.
and the real and the reality is sometimes the parent would have left the child for so many years to function on their own. And by the time they've gotten to a certain place or to a certain point, they're now reaching out for help. They're now coming and requesting assistance. And by this point in time, the child is already independent in how they think, in how they relate, in how they
Hmm.
connect, in how they form relationships, in how they do all of these things. And so now it's now time that the parent is now trying to go in and try to do some reconstruction. And by that time, the child is already headed into adolescent and already know how they want to go about living their life. And it's not impossible, but it's very difficult. So what we're saying this evening is that it's important that you understand how your child thinks, because when you understand how they think, then you're better able to speak to them, understand them, relate to them, and bring across different concepts. What I usually do with my young people is that we go out and we hang out, we go probably go somewhere, we get pizza, we sit, we talk. They tell me, different things of how the day went, probably at school, probably at work, and I get a better feel in how I could connect with them and speak to the issue. But if you've never built a relationship and if you've never had that kind of connection, then it's very hard for you and for persons to really speak to a situation, and help an individual that you've never made a connection to or connection with.
All right. So, Father,
All right.
before you go on, I think I'm hearing you say parents and teachers connect with the children early before age 10 to 9, 10 to 15, sorry,
That's correct.
so that it
That's correct.
makes it easier for both parents and teachers to reach that child at this age, especially in today's technological age. Is
That's
that
right.
correct?
That's right. That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. Because research has shown that when it is done between the ages 4 to 9, then the transition into ages 10 to 15, that there is still a connection there. And so the child grows with that connection in mind. Though there are different things happening around, the child grows with that connection. And that's why when children leave primary school, they oftentimes, when they build a good relationship with the teacher, they oftentimes come back to that very same school and
Hmm.
talk with the teacher, laugh with the teacher, probably bring a birthday gift for the teacher. I've taught students and I've left the teaching arena for maybe about 4 years now, and I still have students who've gone on to university, who've gone on to study, and they had many teachers before me. I only taught them probably for one class, and they still send me messages, added me to group chats, still talk with me. I met a few of them, I think, a few weeks ago when I went to a youth camp. And so what's important that is that we need to build relationships, and that's one of the things that will help us to really overcome the challenges that we are going to face.
Let me remind the listening audience that they can call us at 491-7227 or 491-9064. Pastor would like to hear from you, or send a WhatsApp message to 496-2885. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, so there's an explosion of information access, this is one of the most important differences between this generation and the previous one. So you today have immediate access to religious argument. You'll hear, and I've seen it all the time, Pastor, do you believe there is a God? Where's this God? Who created him? When we were their age, we accepted that there was a God. We accepted that these are the rules for the house. But now there's some challenges to those beliefs. And we're going to see the reason why. So there are more historical revisions. They're looking at probably slavery and all of these other things. So young people today, they're really looking at some of these things because now it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, it's more widely provided for persons who are interested in those things. There are more conspiracy theories, psychological content, therapy language, social commentary. All of these things are new things. If you're an adult, these things we weren't accustomed to when we were at that age, but they have access to all of this at right at their fingertips,
Mhm.
is what we're saying. And so in previous generations, children depended primarily on parents and family, teachers, pastors, or religious leaders, and local community leaders for information. You wanted to know about your family, you go down the road, you ask your neighbor, somebody who lived close by. You wanted to know about God, you ask your pastor. You wanted to know about maths and English, you go to your teacher. But now we have different things that are replacing these four elements: the parents, teachers, the religious leaders, and the local community. The devices have now replaced these. So any of these you could find information. So if you want to know about maths and English, you could just go on YouTube. You don't need a teacher. If you want to know if there is a God, there's somebody that has a platform right now who's streaming, who has a podcast, who could tell you there is no God. The local community members have been replaced to a social community that is online, and the parents and the family, they have now been replaced. So today they could search: is God real? Is my anxiety normal? How can I become a content creator? And every young person wants to be a content creator today because of the digital natives. They're digital natives. They live in a digital world. And so we can't really blame them because this is what they grew up seeing. This is all they know. And so when I was young, I probably wanted to be a firefighter because I saw the truck and the men, and they have on their stuff. But now what our young people are seeing, they're seeing more content creators more than firefighters.
Mm.
They're seeing more of these individuals who are online, um, who who they've never met before, but they want to be like this individual. All right. And so why do adults lie? They ask these questions. And we don't. And probably another time when I'll come, I'll have to look at Chat GPT and all of these other things. And there's a revolving research around that as well,
Mhm.
which we could look at.
Just before you go
And
on,
so the
Father,
brain.
just before you go
Yes,
on,
yes. Go ahead.
this is a comment from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Parenting today, parenting today is not like yesterday. Working
Mm-hmm.
parents need jobs that can coincide with the benefits of the learning environment of today's youth. Teenagers today are very technologically strong, more than some of our teachers. What is being done to assist today's teachers to prepare themselves in the learning institutions?
All right. One of the things that
Hmm.
I benefited from when I was a teacher is that we had a lot of workshops.
Yes.
Every term, just before the school term began, we had a lot of workshops because, of course, we were just coming out of the COVID pandemic atmosphere, and so most of our stuff were already online. We had our tests online. We had all of these things online, but the children, they found ways to 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 manipulate the system that they could get into teachers' tests, and they found different areas that they could go around and find some other way that they could get into the teachers' files and all of these things. And so every single term we had to look at ways um, that we can be one step ahead of our children. We need to be one step ahead because
Mm.
they right now they're looking at something. ChatGPT is giving them advice on how to do something quicker. Some podcast person is giving them advice on how they could be more efficient in writing a paper that is not theirs. and all of these things, so as teachers and as educators, we must always be on the ball. We must always be cognizant that what we think that we're doing right now and we're successful at it, there is something better coming. And some young person may have access to it and be able to be one step ahead of the teachers, and that's not something we want. So workshops, training sessions, and all of these other things really help in building the teachers so that they could be prepared for an ever-growing population that are technologically savvy. They have it at their fingertips and they're using it to their benefit and also to their detriment. All right, so
Sure.
thanks so much for that comment. If you're a teacher, it's always good that you could be online, check and see what other teachers are looking at, and see how best you could be effective in your area of influence, especially in the classroom. All right, so let's wrap up ages 10 to 15, and at the end, maybe I could take some more questions. So at this age, the reward system in the brain, the dopamine pathways, is highly active. Of course, this should not be as active, scientists are saying, it should not be as active as it is at this age. All right. So by the time they're now adults, they need more, and that's why you'll find. And I don't want to bash anyone, but you'll find more adults playing video games. They're now streamers. They're walking around, going into stores, and they're doing all of these things. They want to get a reaction because they know that there's an online presence that feeds their dopamine and all of these things. So this is the atmosphere. This is the world that we now live in, a world where the reward system, which is the dopamine pathways, now needs being fed. It needs to be fed daily and regularly, and persons are going out of their way to make sure that it is being fed. All right. So the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the decision making and impulse control, is still under construction, as we said. It's not fully there as yet. A child, ages 10 to 15, they're not fully there as yet. They still need guidance, they still need instruction, they still need to understand um, how the world works and how rules and laws operate within the world. And so they feel things more intensely, they seek belonging intensely. A child whose father or mother probably left them at that age, they feel it more intensely than somebody who probably is out of that age range. All right, so let's continue. So that's why there's a challenge in certain countries when it comes to gangs, because adolescents, they crave a name, they crave a role, recognition, protection, a brotherhood or a sisterhood. Now, if these needs are not met, and it should be met in the family, in the church, in the school, and in the community. If we're not meeting these very same needs, the protection, the recognition, giving them a name, a role, brotherhood, a sisterhood, if we're not giving them these very same things, now guess what? There is the gangs who are present, who are very present in our communities and our societies. Some countries more than others, who offer structure, ritual, identity, loyalty, and would give them immediate acceptance for a 12-year-old who feels invisible and misunderstood. So they're saying you feel misunderstood, you feel invisible, you feel like you don't belong. Guess what? We have a place for you. And this is the purpose of the family, the community, the church, the school. When we neglect these very same individuals, we are allowing them to venture off into another area that would cause them more harm than good. And so, what makes 2026 youth different from past generations? Compared to adults growing up, they are exposed to adult content earlier, different sites that they could go on and watch things that adult people do. I know we're on the radio station, so I'll try my best to make sure it's kosher. They are more
Thank you.
socially aware of trauma and pain. They have constant comparison through social media. They experience higher reported anxiety levels. They're more easier, they've spoken more times about taking their own lives. They may not, reports may not show it as much between that age range, but more of them speak about it because of how they feel. And so we have to be cognizant of that. All right, so this comes to the end. This is the end of my presentation. Or just before I end, there's a few things I want to share. If you're a parent of a 10 to 15-year-old, there's just a few points I want to share. Now, there's some things that are being streamed on on the Netflix and YouTube and other streaming devices, whether it's Prime or Hulu or these other streaming platforms that you as a parent you need to be very careful of. If you're a Christian parent and you believe in values and morals and all of these other things that you hope that your child would grow up in and be a model citizen in society, you need to pay attention to some of the things that they watch, because you may look at it and it may look innocent and sweet and nice, but deep within its teachings and what they're trying to bring out is some things that are very detrimental. And so if you had a child and they told you that they watched the School of Good and Evil, it's in essence, there's a school that is evil, the school that is good, and either of them can't go on either side. But I think from what I recall, a child told me, a child that is 6 years old who watched this, they said to me that one of the children from the evil side went over to the good, and one child from the good went over to the evil, and they were having fun and all of these things, which is saying to us that when you're good, you could go over to the evil side because that's where the fun is. And if you're trying to raise your child in the fear and knowledge of God, then you'll have a challenge in keeping that child on the straight and narrow. Because guess what? I can go over to the evil side, I can do a few little bad things, and I could come back over on the good side whenever I feel like. All right, that's one. That's two. Number two, there's this movie called Strange Love. It's promoting homosexuality. If you have any streaming platforms, Netflix and all of these other things, this young man, he's struggling with his sexuality. And so he's telling other young people, if you're curious, you could go on that side, go on this side, you could find out and all of these things. And so more young people are querying why it is that, you could only stick with one gender because of what they're watching. So if you're a parent, make sure that this is not one of the things that your child is watching, because it creates in the child's mind more questions than answers. So the next one, um, this here is something that I think that if you have a child that is 4 to 9, and most of these things that I'm sharing with you now, these are things that children would have shared with me. I'm a chaplain at about 3 schools in St. Kitts, and so when I interact with the children, they say, Pastor, you need to look at this, you need to look at that. And the next time you present, you need to talk about it. This here, some of you may know of it, some of you probably seen it, is this, both of them are fathers, and they're telling their son, I think one of them is the real father, and he's a homosexual, and he's now raising his son, telling his son, you could dress however you want, you could put on a ballerina dress, and you could be whoever you want to be, whether boy or girl, you could be whichever. And so the child at that age sees this, and so starts to ask questions and start to, venture off down a path, and it's not doing them any good. This is another one as well. This young man here, he's bisexual. This is a cartoon I'm speaking about that is streamed on Netflix and all of these other streaming platforms. And under the caption "Kids," this is where this is being played. And so these three individuals, they go down to hell sometimes, have fun, and they come back up. And and hell is shown as a place of fun and enjoyment. And you could come back up to the boring earth where they oftentimes would go to have fun. So that's one thing you need to pay attention to as parents. And so this is another one, Demon Slayer. This guy here, he's activating some sort of demonic activity. And so the older ones from 15 go up, they will probably know of this. But I was surprised children as low as age 7, they've been watching this. And they have many reported cases of children being demon possessed by watching these shows. I've seen it myself, I've heard of it myself. And so some parents could also attest that they've watched this show called Lucifer. Lucifer comes down to earth. He's treated unfairly by God, and so he rallies the people on earth. He's showing that he's a really good guy. And so some students were asking me, Pastor, why is it that God treated Lucifer so badly? He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. These are some of the things that our children are watching, and they're questioning, and they're feeling uneasy about what they're seeing. And now they're coming to school, and they're coming and they're asking different questions. And so he has here all bad things must come to an end. And so Lucifer isn't bad anymore. God is so unjust. God is so wicked. God is so this. God is so that. And he comes down here to show people how loving and kind he is. So we have to be careful of that. Another thing as well, if you have a child between ages, as low as ages 4, have been reported being on Roblox. Now, you may have a child, and many parents have spoken to, they have their child on Roblox, and that's fine, and that's good, and that's great. But one of the things you must be conscious of is the fact that there's adults as well on Roblox. So there are many reported cases where children have interacted with adults, grown men, grown women, on these very same games, playing, building houses with your child, talking with them, interacting with them, sharing things with them. And the last thing you want is for your child to be interacting with an adult. You left your 5-year old, your 7-year old on their device, and they're now building a city, and a man comes by, a man is talking to them. You don't want to create that atmosphere as well. So let's continue. As I wrap up, this little boy here, he has a pet demon. This demon, whenever he's attacked, the demon transforms into this large monster and protects him. So this is saying to our children, if you want to be protected, you need to get a demon. You need to get a demon to be protected. And so a lot of children, they're saying, oh, Pastor, I want a demon to protect me. And so this is his pet demon. All right. And this is creating, affecting the spiritual atmosphere as well with our young people as I come to an end. Now, this guy here, I have his picture up. He was demon possessed. He's now speaking about his testimony because of how he was demon possessed by watching this show called Devil Man. And so he's now talking about how um, he was possessed, and now he's now freed, praise God. And so he's warning children as well, warning people from watching these shows because it's very demonic. These are some other shows that you know you may not be able to see it if you tune in on the radio, but shows like Naruto, shows like Bleach, shows like One Piece, these are all demonic shows. These are, especially with Naruto, maybe 80% of children you will speak to, 80 to 90% would tell you that they've watched this show. It's a very, very popular show. It's about two parents placing a demon inside of a child, and the child grows up with the demon inside of him. And when the child gets upset, the demon takes full control of him, and the demon kills everybody around him. All right. It's the same thing with Bleach, the same thing with One Piece. Of course, the children will come to their defense because they love these shows. It's about power, it's about how to utilize demonic forces, and this is what we need to be cognizant of. Fortnite is a whole other story. I did a whole presentation on this, but you may have a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and you've bought a PS5 for them, and you've gotten them the game Fortnite because you think you're going to keep them inside, keep them out of trouble. But I want you to pay attention to a news article, and I made a small snippet, and I'll share it with you if you're a parent, if you're a teacher. Ask your child if they played the game Fortnite, and if they have a PS5, if they have a computer, they've probably played it before. And so the lawyers, so there's a big dispute, a big case right now. And so this is the statement from Fortnite. They're saying the lawyers claim that Epic Games, which is the creators of Fortnite, hired psychologists to dig into the human brain and make every part of Fortnite as addictive as possible. And so there's a large claim being given out to persons who are addicted, who are claimed to be addicted from this very same game. I did a presentation on it. I spoke to some boys, and they broke down, they cried, they said, Pastor, I really want to break free from this. My mother bought it for me because she wants me to stay inside the house. She doesn't want me to go down the road and get in trouble. But even while the child is home, the child is a prisoner, even with this very same game. All right, so there's clear addiction. There's this guy here who's struggling, with addiction as well. A young guy, a young man, I think he's around 16. He watched the series Death Note, another demonic show, and he was demon possessed as well. And he's sharing his testimony as to how he was able to overcome that demonic activity that was taking control of his life. And so I've come to the end of my presentation. It's a pretty long one, but I was able to cut it short. And so here's where our young people are this evening. Here is where they have been struggling with, they have been experiencing all of these challenges. And so I'm only here to tell the people of Montserrat, whether you've tuned in on your radio, you've been driving in your car, you've heard the information, um, that our young people are in a place today that they've never experienced before. We've never experienced before, but it's our responsibility as teachers, as pastors, as leaders, as community members, as guardians, as parents, that we need to mold the path that our young people are going down, because if we leave them, then we'll have a future that is filled with young people who have no path, have no identity, and they're unaware of their destination. So I pray that my presentation this evening was um, was well received and you are well informed to continue to do the good work that you've been doing.
Pastor, thank you. I really had to ask you to share this with the Montserrat public. I'm hoping that parents were listening. It's actually scary for me, and I feel that as an educator, I have a responsibility to our parents to make us all aware. Um, Even more aware now that there are two sides out there, and I know that I grew up in a Christian home, and I used to hear about the two sides existing in the world, the good side and the bad side. It's now even more in the forefront. One of the questions that came in earlier was, what is it that we as educators are doing on Montserrat? And there's another question coming. Let me take the question. Can you go ahead? Let's take the question.
Oh yeah.
Go
Yes.
ahead.
Oh yes.
Speak. Oh, I'm not hearing you. Did we lose that question? Okay. So what I was saying is that, Pastor, Pastor, you gone? Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh,
I'm still
okay.
here.
I saw
I'm
you.
still here.
So you disappear. So we're saying that on Montserrat, so based upon this, we did a training last week Friday on child online protection. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
Montserrat thing. It's actually an OECS initiative, and so it was done right across the OECS territories. Montserrat was part of that, and what we did was share with our teachers and other stakeholders that are responsible for children and the social services. We shared with them about, how to pass on positive, safe ways for our students to be online. One of the questions that came up for you tonight, the last question, unless somebody else calls in, was, and let me read it for you. I, this person wants to know is, many teenagers of today, they are faced with cyberbullying. Is there a way for you to
Mm.
explain about this? And many of those children are afraid to go to school. This is a question comment that came in for you.
Yes, that's a real issue that principals, teachers, and even myself we have to deal with. Of course, I've shared earlier. I'm the chaplain for about three to four schools, and so I go to the schools and I, speak with the children, and they oftentimes talk about the experience online, because when the children leave school, they go home and they go to these platforms, the WhatsApp, the Instagram, the TikTok, all of these other things. And one child would have shared that they posted a video of them, probably, I think they were drawing or something. And everybody started to laugh at the child the next day because they said the video didn't get enough views, and and all of this stuff. So children today, they prize themselves in receiving recognition, whether it's verbal recognition and whether it's visual recognition, and we see these things through likes, through views. So a child that is 6 years old, I'm talking about a 6-year-old child, talking about they didn't get enough views from a video that they did yesterday. It shows you where our children are. And I said earlier that most of them, they want to be content creators. They want to create videos, they want to do things. And so when parents hear this, they feel proud, and they oftentimes it's more facilitated by the parents. They take video of the child, they say, look at this, and so the child feel pressured to fulfill a certain requirement of looking good online and expecting to receive um, a certain response from the online community. And when the child doesn't receive that, then the child feels like a failure. The child feels like they're not enough. The child feels like that somebody is doing it better than them. They're not pretty enough. They're not, so these are some of the stuff that they struggle with. Now the question is, how do we deal with children who are bullied online, children who are experiencing challenges when it comes to um, connecting with others? Because of course they're digital natives. They grow up in a world where technology is there, and so they're going to be on these very same platforms. Now it goes all the way back to parenting, and I oftentimes say to parents when I have these sessions is that you must be your child's parent. You can't be your child's friend. You can't be your child's you can't be the person who click like, subscribe, and share. I've seen you'll be surprised at some of the stuff that our parents are doing. You can't be the person who is trying to promote a 7-year-old on social media. It does not make sense. And a lot of times it goes all the way back to parenting. And most times, if not most times, the parents expect the teachers at school to parent the child, to teach the child, to bring that child out of that dark place and to place the child in a better environment. But I would rephrase this whole statement, or rephrase the question by saying, what are our parents doing? What are they doing to really help the child to really um, have a certain type of presence? Now, I think I was reading an article the other day, which was saying that a child should not have a device um, before the age of 13.
Mm.
And many parents disagree because they say they want to speak to the child, and when the child goes to school, when they want to pick them up and such and such and such. But what I said to the parent is that before the phone existed, you were in school and you did quite fine. You got home safely. You were able to make it back home. You didn't die. Nobody kidnapped you. Nobody took you hostage. You were able to make it home. So it's the same thing for our children today. Yes, you want to be able to connect with the child, but if it is that you're purchasing a phone for the child, make sure that there's this analog phone that you can't go on social media. It's just for calls only. And so it's an uphill battle because I promote no phone before 13. And if there is a phone after 13, it should be an analog phone, which is used solely for calling, to alleviate the whole bullying online.
Mm.
That's one way I would have shared. But of course, parents disagree and they're trying it their way. And I can't, as I said in the beginning, I can't tell parents how to raise their children.
I love that answer. It's going to be tough for parents to listen to what you're saying tonight, but
That's right.
yeah, because some parents do personally have concerns about child safety. But we too on Montserrat, we let the parents know that the school offices, they have phones, and so
Yes.
it's about teaching the child the safe use of the phone or the responsible use of the phone. But
Hmm.
that teaching of responsible use of the cell phone has not occurred. And so
Mm.
our students are using it as they see fit, which in most
Hmm.
cases is irresponsibly. And one of the ways they're using it is to bully others. And not
That's
for
right.
academic learning. If they have the smartphones, they're not using for academic learning. They're using it to bully and to hurt themselves because they're on there looking for likes, like you're suggesting, looking for shares. How many person views? Sorry, how many persons viewed? How
Yes.
many persons shared? And so that's now the push, and not what
Yes.
we would as educators would want, which is go to chat GPT or any other AI sites and learn something
Yes.
about your math or your English or your science. So yeah, we do have that
That's right.
challenge here. And if you do not have any more comments and we have no more calls, we would like to say, Pastor Bridget, thanks very much for being part of tonight's program. And we want to put our neck out there to invite you back. Stay in touch, because together, the school, the community, the family, and the church, together is how we can make things better. And I would like to thank you on behalf of the MSS Embracing Quality Education, on behalf of the ZJB Radio Montserrat, our technicians. There are two of them tonight, and they have been very helpful. And I think we did well to be able to see your videos in lifetime using the technology in an appropriate manner. Any more comments
Yes.
from you?
Yes. No, that's basically it.
Okay.
I'm hoping that I could finish the other presentation,
Okay.
um, which is looking at how well, there's two presentation, the
Mhm.
impact of technology on the psychosocial aspect of the human nature. So we want to look at that as well. That's one of the things that I've been working on, and also the impact of these AI fast track things that are coming on very quickly. How will it impact society on a whole, jobs and the next generation of jobs? What will it look like, and all of these things? So there's a lot of research happening, and it's always good that as educators that we can be on the ball,
We need to.
learning and growing. And I love sharing. I love researching. A part of my degree, I have to do a lot of research into what our young people are interested in. So as I get information, we'll be in contact. I'm always willing to share so that we all could be on the same page. And at the end of the day, I want our educators, our schools, whether it's Montserrat, whether it's Antigua, whether it's in St. Kitts, wherever persons are listening from via the radio, that they as well could benefit. So I pray that this evening's presentation was a blessing. I know it was a blessing, and we look forward to more times where we could connect and have more discussion on this very important topic that is now being unraveled, and more information is coming on stream. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. My sisters have joined as well via the Zoom platform. They're principals at one of the schools in Antigua, and so I pray that they receive the blessing as well.
And what about your shout out to those in Montserrat before you go?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. The list, Sister Riley. Thank you so much, Sister Riley. Housed me and showed me around. She invited me back again. I'm not sure if she's in the studio. So many persons I want to shout out. They treated myself and my wife with so much hospitality. And I'm looking forward to the next time that I'll be there again. My wife says she wants to come back. So it's to the people of Montserrat, thank you so much for your warm hospitality, for the wonderful food. I won't tell you some of the stuff that I ate there, but of course, thank you for the goat water. Thank you so much for all of the sightseeing, for taking me around and allowing me to have such a wonderful time in such an untouched part of the Caribbean, Emerald Isle of the Caribbean. So thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to another time that I could come by, and hopefully I could be in the studio
That would be lovely.
for
That would be lovely.
yes, I could be in the studio and share as well.
Okay, thank you and good night to you and your family.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye bye. Good night, listeners.